Debbyites, we're back once again for yet another year of Oscar frivolity and fun. I am your host, Rob Licuria, for this pre-show here at Gold Derby, the best place on the internet for all Oscars coverage. And I'm here with just a cavalcade of stars, some of my favourite people on the planet, including Tony Ruiz from California, and also Marcus James Dixon, also dialing in from California, and Luca Giliberti, who is dialing in from Germany. It's a star-studded cast, and I'm so glad to see you all guys. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hello. Thanks.
We have so much to talk about, which is really like an understatement. But I really just want to kind of start with talking about the main, the acting categories, Best Picture, because that's what a lot of people seem to be really excited about. But then we're going to talk about some of the obviously below the line categories, the ones that I actually really care about the most. And we're going to try to cover all of them throughout this 2-hour special, okay? So this particular half-hour window, we're going to attack the screenplay categories, costume and production design. But before we do, let's not beat around the bush, okay? Let's talk about Best Picture, because some of us have been texting relentlessly for days, either on Twitter DMs or whatever, like in Messenger, just losing our minds over what's going to win this and that. And Best Picture, it's really become a two-horse race. And pardon the pun for one of those particular films. But I am really I'm not 100% sure. I don't know CODA is going to win for sure. I don't know if Power of the Dog is absolutely a shoo-in. So I want to go to you first, Luca, because I know that you're kind of on my team, so to speak. And so I think Tony is as well. Like, I think we're both like hoping for one particular film. But I want to hear what you have to say. What's going to win Best Picture and why?
This category is, first of all, I'm very excited that it's a two-horse race. I do have a favorite in this category, and people who know me or have been following me know what my favorite is. But I think it's the most boring thing is to go into Oscar night knowing exactly what's going to win Best Picture. So I think this race is actually really exciting. It's very difficult because we all know where the momentum is, ostensibly, at least, and that's with CODA. It won WGA, it won SAG, it won PGA. And we know that we put a lot of weight on PGA because PGA uses a preferential ballot, and we know that the Oscars do that as well. And the fact that CODA won that is very telling, and the fact that it won SAG is very telling. And something else that plays a role here are stats. And we all know that this is the year where a lot of stats will be broken if CODA wins Best Picture, or even if Power of the Dog wins Best Picture. So ultimately, it's very difficult to predict because we know CODA has 3 Oscar nominations for Supporting Actor, Adapted Screenplay, and for Picture, while Power of the Dog has 12. So it's very difficult. If you use math, Power of the Dog is easily still the front runner. But if you try to follow the momentum, then the smart pick is with CODA. I ended up sticking with Power of the Dog. I don't feel good about it. Again, I recognize that the momentum is with CODA. And I wouldn't even say it's because it got 12 nominations and that CODA only got 3. I think we all agree that CODA has gained a lot of momentum this past month, and had voting happened a few weeks later, it might have gotten more nominations. I'm not sure how many more, but I do think it would have probably done better. I think that late momentum is why it won 2 BAFTAs, including for screenplay, which many of us didn't predict. I think that's why it won PGA. I think that's all benefited it. That being said, the Academy, what you have to imagine when you look at these guilds is you have to take a small group of voters from all of these guilds, and then you have to put them in the Academy, because that's what the Academy is. Some of these guilds are much bigger than the entire Academy. So ultimately, we don't know what these individual voters from these different groups are, what they voted for at these guilds. But what we do know is that Power of the Dog was absolutely beloved here. It got 12 nominations. It got nominations that it did not need to get if it wasn't beloved. Production design, sound, editing, these are all very important nominations. Jesse Plemons in Supporting Actor, that signal to me that the Power of the Dog is beloved in the Academy. Whether that works on a preferential ballot will be another question.
Yeah. So what you're saying is the Power of the Dog has the power of the nominations because it has the support. And I like that. I like it. I'm there. I'm all over it. Like Jesse Plemons being nominated. Hello. That's a little sign right there for you. But you're also right in saying CODA was late breaking. And maybe when the nominations came out, a lot of the voters didn't see CODA. And now I'm sure they all have. And let's not deny, whether you think CODA is a great film or not, I think it's an amazing film, but it does make you feel good. And that's so important right now. I was going to ask Tony next, but I actually want to hear from Marcus because I know he loves CODA. He's such a softie. So tell me, Marcus, why is CODA winning? Apart from the PGA, because we all know preferential ballot, PGA, it's all about the PGA, right? Don't overthink it. Mm-hmm. But you've been saying CODA now for a little while. Why?
I've been going back and forth, actually. The past 2 weeks, I started with Power winning, as everyone did. Then I switched to CODA after PGA, I guess. Then I switched back to Power a couple days ago because of everything Luca just said. And it's the more artsy highbrow of the two. This morning I switched back to CODA. So literally I've gone back and forth 4 times. I'm settling on CODA because of the heart factor. It makes you cry. And some of us don't want to admit it, but they cried watching CODA. And, there's no tears at all for Power the Dog. Between the two, personally, I much preferred CODA. In fact, CODA was my favorite movie of the year. And that's part of the reason I wanted to stick with Power as my prediction, because either way, I would have been happy. Either my favorite movie wins or Power wins and I get the prediction point. But I just couldn't do that. So this morning I switched back to CODA and I'm sticking to it. And by the way, I keep hearing this thing that maybe voters hadn't seen CODA when the nominations came out. Shame on them. If you're a voter and you didn't see this movie when everyone was saying it was going to get a Best Picture nomination, you didn't have time to watch it, you should be an Academy member.
Yeah, just give up your card now. What are you doing? What are you watching? What Survivor? I don't know. What kind of crap?
Hey, there's nothing wrong with Survivor.
I know that. I said that on purpose. I wanted to trigger you. You know what, Tony? Can you just actually start making some sense? Because these two guys are just making me more confused.
Yeah, I'm gonna thread a needle here. I think both points of view. First of all, anybody who says for sure that one is a lock over the other, they're just wrong. Nothing is a lock at this point. However, I am going with CODA for one specific reason. And Marcus is right, it is the rooting factor. And when we talk about Power the Dog getting 12 nominations, yes, absolutely. And I think a long time ago, when the Academy was maybe smaller and there wasn't this huge kind of international thing, the film with the most nominations, that was a good harbinger for Best Picture. But what we've got now is something different. We've got a film that people just love. Whereas I think Power the Dog, they respect, and the craft in Power the Dog, I can even see some of these branches of the Academy, your sound and your cinematography and your production design, things like that. I can see them respecting Power the Dog more, but on a preferential ballot, they can still vote for Best Picture. And are they going to vote for the picture that they respect, or are they going to vote for the picture that they love? And what we've seen over the last several years is, that passion can sometimes trump statistics. And so I think CODA is the film for this time. Now, people can debate the merits of CODA as a best film thing. I think they can do that until they're blue in the face. That's not why we're here. We're here to talk about who's going to win. And I think with the preferential ballot, I don't see a lot of people ranking CODA low. I see some people ranking Power of the Dog very high, but I could also see some people ranking it very low. Whereas I think CODA has that kind of coalescing factor of it being the film with heart and the film that makes you feel. It's going to win an acting award. It's probably going to win adapted screenplay. And I just feel like, in this time, it's a film that is perfect for this moment. I mean, you can't look at a film in the Oscars divorced from the politics of where we are right now. And, people want a nice warm hug. And I think CODA is that film. So I'm sticking with it, and I'm not hesitating about it.
Yeah, I think you all make really valid points. This is going to look, anyone who at the end of the Oscars says, "Oh, I've been saying this from the get-go," and I'm like, I don't really care too much about whether someone predicted CODA or not, because I predict chaos. I think we're going to see a lot of chaos tonight.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be a lot of winners we weren't seeing coming, and we're going to have to scramble to come up with ideas as to why. And that's great. I want to see more of that because I'm not feeling very confident that we're going to have a great show. I'm hoping to be wrong. I'm really trying to stay positive here. I hope that Sean Penn has to smelt his Oscar, because I don't necessarily think we need to see Vladimir Zelensky making a speech at the Oscars. I just think that's not really the time for that. So look, we've got to move on. We're running out of time, but I did want to say that we have had 9,300 people predict Oscars. Sorry, 9,200 people predicting Oscars in our prediction center. That's incredible. That's almost 10,000 people across the planet. And our prediction center is still open until 3:45 p.m. Pacific time. So you've got time to make some switches after listening to what we have to say. And anyone out there who hasn't predicted yet, what are you waiting for? Get on there. Make your predictions. Put the two categories that you want to double your bet or whatever. Press submit. Let's see what happens. I want to see some people's names at the end, winning our contest and so forth. And I want to see who maybe has that perfect score, because that's the elusive perfect score that we're all trying to get. Now,
Tony didn't let you made it like in the top 17 last year or something, right?
Yeah, I was actually number 17 last year.
Yes, I think you might have reminded us about that the other day.
And I will probably do it even more.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? Good. You should do that. You should be very proud. Now, let's talk about screenplay, because one of them I'm kind of like, I think I'm pretty comfortable, and the other one I'm just like, no idea. I'm pretty confused. So
yeah,
we can have like hours and hours here to just like ruminate over this. I want to hear what you're predicting and why, and try to make it slightly snappy. Otherwise, I'm just going to eject you out of this chat. Now, Tony, you go first to the two screenplays. What the hell? What's going on?
I think CODA is pretty safe for adapted. The BAFTA win was I think that made that a lock. But original screenplay is making me crazy. But I'm playing it kind of safe, and I'm going to just stick with Belfast. I think if we're going back to that rootable factor, you got two things going on here: a film that makes people feel good, and a film that is by a multiple Oscar-nominated, actor, writer, director. And I think the fact that Kenneth Branagh is a beloved actor, and he wrote the screenplay, and it is so personal. I think that it's probably his. He's out front. I wouldn't put it past Don't Look Up. I don't think Licorice Pizza is the contender that some people think it would. Now, if I had a choice, I would want the worst person in the world to win. But wishing one hand.
I hear. If the worst person in the world can win, then I would be so thrilled.
That'd be amazing.
I think I would be in tears because I love that movie, and I love seeing Outsider just snatch the Oscar away from the favorites. But then I think, I'd feel really bad for Sir Kenneth Branagh, because I think he needs to finally have an Oscar on his mantle. He's been nominated 50,000 times and still hasn't won, and I want him to win for this very personal story. And I'm predicting Belfast will win in the original, and I think CODA will probably win adapted, but Jane Campion could still pull that one out. So come on, Luca, just knock some sentences, because I have no idea.
Well, I agree with Tony on adapted. I think this is CODA's to lose. I would not call it a lock, because but the BAFTA and WGA combo is just, it's too hard to ignore. WGA, of course, there were a lot of ineligible films. Power of the Dog was ineligible, Drive My Car, The Lost Daughter, but the BAFTA win, it had no business winning that BAFTA. And I mean, that's because I don't think anyone predicted it. I had it in 5th place, so I have egg on my face for that. So that was just absolutely insane. And what I think we should mention here is this is the only place they can reward Sian Heder for this film. She is not a producer, so she cannot be rewarded in Best Picture. She's not nominated for directing. I don't know if people think this way. They probably don't. But I think if there is all this new love for CODA, and it's been gaining so much momentum, I think screenplay is absolutely where we'll see that manifest. I wouldn't be surprised to see Jane Campion pull it off if The Power of the Dog does end up winning Best Picture, and we're completely wrong, and it is much stronger than many had assumed. Then she could absolutely take it. But I think a lot of people know that she is a lock, or the ostensible lock in Best Director. So I think a lot of people will probably vote for her there and maybe vote for someone else here. Original screenplay is an absolute disaster. I still have Licorice Pizza. I completely understand all the arguments against it. There is some controversy, though I don't know how much of that is outside of Twitter. It did not win WGA. That was a huge red flag. I understand that, but it did win BAFTA, and it won BAFTA over Don't Look Up. It won, and to me, BAFTA sometimes can be a bit more telling because at BAFTA we have an entire academy voting. We see what all branches of an academy, what they would go for. And it's not like Don't Look Up was not popular there. Don't Look Up, let's not forget, got a Best Film nomination. It got him for Leo DiCaprio. It should have been able to win there, in my opinion, if it was going to win it, the Oscars. That being said, Don't Look Up is still insanely popular, and it fits the original screenplay. It is a very original concept. People absolutely loved it, whether we want to accept it or not. Twitter probably doesn't, but people love this movie, so I could absolutely see it pull off a win. I would love to see Worst Person in the World. I think that could be something that surprises. I think, like CODA, it might be a film that people were watching this past month after the nomination, something that's been gaining momentum, and I think that could absolutely that could lead to a victory here. And just very briefly, Belfast, I understand the arguments, absolutely. I just don't see the love for this film. It hasn't won a single industry prize outside of Best British Film at BAFTA. Sir Kenneth Branagh couldn't win at BAFTA, which I think was quite telling. But if there is more love for it here than I might be predicting, then I guess I could see him pulling it off. It's a messy category.
It's really difficult, definitely. I just want to mention from our comments that there's a commenter called Convicted Cinephile. I love that name. And he or she or they say, I love being right, but I hope I get several wrong for the sake of excitement and hope dictions. And I totally agree. That's what I'm really hoping for. I want to see chaos. Okay, Marcus, you're not like that. You're like,
Marcus
no,
wants to be right. Marcus just wants to be right.
I'm cringing at the thought of rooting for your predictions to be wrong so that it could be a chaotic night. I want to get 23 out of 23. And I really don't think I am because of some of the categories that we may talk about later. But as far as screenplays, wouldn't this be such an easy world if either CODA or Power were in the other category? If one was in this category, one was in the other, then we would be predicting them both and we would just wipe our hands and move on. But we don't have easy things in life sometimes. So I am doing CODA for all the reasons you guys said. And then for original, I am doing Belfast. I think there is more love for this movie than you may believe. And, it's got to win something. And you could say that about Licorice Pizza as well, right? But I just think that this would be a great time to reward Kenneth Branagh with an Oscar. And let's move on to the next category.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Look, I don't know. This is tough. I wish WGA. I get why they have the certain rules about eligibility. It is a guild. It's a union. It would be so cool just for our own benefit if they could just open it up to everybody, just for us, and then go back to being a union. But of course, that's not going to happen. I do like a bit of chaos. Speaking of chaos, I don't think necessarily that we're going to see a lot of chaos with costumes and production design, although I would like to see Dune, my number one film of 2021, right just above Power of the Dog for me. I'd like to see Dune win costumes and production design. I don't know if that's going to happen. Cruella has pretty much just beaten everybody in one, pretty much everything it needs to win. Production design could be Dune, could be Nightmare Alley, don't know. Apart from those, because I don't think we need to spend hours on this, guys. Apart from those films that I've mentioned, does anyone else think that a film could win costumes or production design, like really genuinely? Does anyone think so? And if not, just give me a puzzled, like shaking of the head. Okay, good. So I'm sorry, I don't think we need to talk about costume design and production design. They're two of my favorite categories. Like, they're just such beautiful artistry. But if you look back throughout the years, you will see the most costumes win costume design. That happens a lot. The frilly dresses, the bonnets, the hats, all that stuff. Like, I remember even back when Jane Campion's first major breakthrough, the piano, was nominated against Schindler's List, both nominated in costume design, and The Age of Innocence won. And that wasn't even nominated for Best Picture. That was a Scorsese film that just missed out. If it was a 10 picture, it should have been. Yeah. And so, you know what I mean? That was Gabriella Pascucci. So I think Cruella has that one in the bag. And production design, I'm hoping June. That was probably one of my favorite things about the whole film, the production design. So, yeah, I think that's really all I need to say about that. I actually really want to talk about Best Actress. We're going to be talking about Best Actress pretty much throughout the whole show today because that is a killer. Now, obviously, Jessica Chastain is pretty much the safe bet. We can all pretty much agree with that. Nicole Kidman and Olivia Colman most likely will be the also ran, although I'm not counting them out, but I just don't think they're probably going to make it. And I think then you've got Kristen Stewart, a bit of an unknown because she was snubbed throughout the whole season. And then you've got this Penelope Cruz factor. Now, Penelope Cruz was also snubbed everywhere. Didn't even make it to the BAFTA long list, which really, that made me question everything in life. And then she makes it into the final five. And I'm thinking, okay, so people are starting to, they will, let's go and see Parallel Mothers now. I've got to see it. They see it and they're like, shit, she's amazing. She is so good in that movie. Like, it's just undeniable. And then we start hearing from the Oscar voters anonymously and just chit chat throughout LA that people are voting for her. People really like that performance and aren't that hot about Tammy Faye, that film. And there lies the problem that we've been debating for days. Like, it's just been relentless. I'm just like, people, everyone just calm down. So, Marcus, tell me, who are you going with and why?
I switched this morning to Penelope Cruz, and
another one.
This was because of those anonymous ballots. She was not even on my radar as a potential winner before these ballots started coming out. And if I remember correctly, and someone in the comments, say if I'm right or wrong, I think last year Anthony Hopkins got more first place votes on these anonymous ballots that were coming out. I ignored that and I said they're not going to go with that. So I had Hopkins up till Oscar morning, and then I switched to Chadwick Boseman. So I'm hoping this time by listening to the anonymous ballots that it will actually, give me this point correctly. But this is a killer. I think we all pretty much agree on the other three acting races, but this is the one that will determine whether someone, maybe gets a perfect score or not at the Oscars. Am I the only one doing Penelope, or did you guys also kind of follow that bandwagon?
No, I'm on. I have.
Me too.
Yeah. So you've all jumped. You've all jumped into the.
Rob, you have time to jump still. You still have.
I refuse to do it. I just think I get the arguments. I totally respect them. I think you're all pretty much on the money. But I also say to people who are sticking with Chastain, yeah, you're also on the money, and that's the thing. Like,
let's be very clear about.
Go ahead. You say it.
Let's be very clear about this. Is that this really is a coin flip race? I mean, literally,
it's gonna be very close.
What's coming through the ethos of all this is this kind of like that. This is a neck and neck race, like as close a race as we've ever had. And in that, yes, Chastain, people sticking with Chastain, go for it. I mean, I could be talked into it. There's no shame in picking Chastain over Cruz. All right, we're not going to get into this thing where we hate on one versus the other. We're not doing that. And those of you on film Twitter, stop it.
That was your best teacher voice you've ever done.
Thank you so much. I am sticking with Penelope, much like what Marcus said. We heard, and I think this is another effect of the long period that we have here, this long Oscar season, is that people have a chance to see these films that they haven't seen. And I think early on, people hadn't seen Parallel Mothers. And now that Penelope Cruz is nominated, people are seeing it and going, oh my God, this performance. I think it's the performance of the year, in my opinion. And I admit my own bias because A, I love Penelope Cruz, B, I'm a huge Almodovar fan. But I think it's probably one of her best performances. And much the same way that Hopkins was getting the same kind of love last year. So I'm totally willing to be wrong but I'm going to go down swinging.
Yeah.
What I think helps her is that I think Parallel Mothers is a much more respected film.
Exactly.
There's a weird correlation here, I think, between Eyes of Tammy Faye and The Iron Lady, both nominated for actress and makeup. Now, Eyes of Tammy Faye is probably going to win makeup. The difference here is I don't think Chastain, love her as I do, as wonderful as she is in this film, I don't think this is a Meryl Streep type situation. Meryl Streep in Iron Lady had this like 30-year drought between wins. And though some people think Chastain is overdue, is she really that overdue? I mean, this is only, what, her third nomination? And, you know, talk to Amy Adams about overdue and then come talk to me. So,
Glenn Close.
Yes, Glenn Close. Hello. So I think the respect for Parallel Mothers and the kind of general apathy for Eyes of Tammy Faye, I think that helps Cruz. Now, again, I'm totally prepared for the fact that when Anthony Hopkins opens that envelope, Jessica Chastain's name could be called. But if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down swinging.
Yeah, look, I'm in the same boat. I'm just going to go down swinging. I just don't want to. I didn't want to jump the bandwagon, and I respect people doing so because I think it actually makes a lot of sense. I just figured it'd be interesting to have some of us sticking with Chastain, some of us moving over to Cruz and seeing what happens, and then seeing Coleman winning or something crazy, you know? Because look, crazy stuff's going to happen. Let's just keep reminding everybody of that. Now, we literally have 2 minutes to go, guys. I just want to hear your number one thought for the ceremony tonight. I know we've been super negative for the last few weeks about it, but what are you actually looking forward to the most? Like, let's end on a positive note, okay? So, what are
you? Did you say me?
Yes, I did.
Okay. For 3 years, I've been saying bring back a host. They finally brought back a host, and I'm curious to see if these ladies have chemistry together because, you know, based on some of the previews or trailers that they put out, they don't seem to have a lot of chemistry. So I'm going to be looking at that. I want to be entertained by the hosts. Like, there's not one, there's not two, there's three. And I want to be proven right that for 3 years, I've been saying they need to bring a host back. I want these ladies to make it so that they always will have a host going forward.
Okay. Luca.
I think we've been promised clips for the acting nominees, and I really hope that we get them. I understand last year was a very different ceremony, and I understand that they didn't have them, but I think they belong in these ceremonies. And I hope they choose original clips, not the same ones that we've seen at all these other award shows. You don't have to choose the exact same clips. So that's something I'm hoping for. And I just hope that they just find a way to honor film in some way, because there are so many things that happened this year that are doing the exact opposite. I absolutely, obviously, like everyone else, not a fan of what they're doing with these 8 categories that are not being presented on the telecast as they usually are. I think that's incredibly disgraceful. I know we're supposed to be positive, but it makes me quite angry. So I just hope that they find a different way to honor film, because the Oscars are for film lovers first and foremost. I understand that they want to draw in an audience, but there are people who care about these awards, and they should be the main audience that they're keeping in mind.
Okay, thank you. I agree with you. Tony, you get 10 seconds.
Good luck with that. I'm looking forward to seeing Shaun White present. No, I'm not. Look, the show is going to be what it's going to be. I echo every single thing Luca said. I want Anthony Hopkins to get a standing ovation that he should have gotten last year.
Yes.
I want the Oscars in many ways to remember who their audience is. Not the numbers of the audience, but remember who is watching. People who love film. And remember that, yeah, you're trying to make an entertaining show. Please make it entertaining, but also don't do that at the expense of the rest of us. So I want to see Regina Hall be the fabulousness that she is. I want to see Wanda Sykes come out with an axe and just slice everyone to pieces, because nobody is better at that than Wanda Sykes. I think she's the secret weapon in this triumvirate of funny ladies tonight.
Okay, well, look, I think they're all really good points. I would like to now invite in David Buchanan, Sam Eckmann, and Kevin Jacobsen while we say goodbye to these 3 guys. you know what? We've got so much to look forward to. I think what you guys mentioned is so true. I'm getting a little bit excited. This is going to be cool. I think it's a really good night, guys. And you have the best time watching the Oscars. I'm sure we'll be writing to each other the whole time. And we'll see you afterwards, okay? So enjoy. Bye.
Bye-bye. Have fun, everyone.
You too. Now, we've got an East Coast. This is all about the East Coast at the moment now, because we've got Sam Eckmann, we've got David Buchanan, and Kevin Jacobsen. Like three of the loveliest people on that coast. Guys, I'm so happy to see you. We have so much to talk about. I want to stick with what we were just saying before about what we're looking forward to. I want to start with that, okay? Because I want to get you in a good mood. So, yeah, I know. We're all not happy about the 8 categories not being presented live. I know we're not happy about the Twitter awards, and Minamata, whatever the hell that is, might be winning an award, or Cinderella or whatever. And, you know, there's some stuff that's going to happen tonight that's going to really irritate the crap out of us. But there is also going to be some really cool stuff. Who would like to go first? I want to hear from you. What are you really looking forward to seeing tonight?
I can't wait for We Don't Talk About Bruno, personally, because I'm totally obsessed with Encanto. I won't admit how many times I've watched that movie. And it should probably be the best original song choice for that film. Unfortunately, it's not. But I hope they've put together a really great, fully staged performance for that. So that's what I'm most looking forward to, is seeing that live.
Yeah, I think you're right. My kids are dying to see that live. And I think it's going to open the show. That's my thoughts. I think that'd be a really cool way to do it. What about you, David?
I am most looking forward to a really jaw-dropping Best Actress winner. You know, I know you were just having a discussion a little while ago about, you know, who you think is out front. But one of my favorite memories of last year is being so caught off guard by who won when the envelope was opened. So I'm really looking forward to that again. After so many, you know, we kind of bemoan the fact that, you know, a lot of these acting categories get very predictable. This is the second year in a row where we do not really know who's going to win Best Actress when the category is announced. So I'm very excited about that.
I mean, isn't that really one of the main points why we watch this stuff? Like, when you were a kid watching the Oscars, don't you remember those moments where they just announced someone and you just weren't seeing it coming? Like, I'm that old. I was going to say something really facetious. Like, I remember when Olivia de Havilland, but no. I remember when Melissa Tomei was announced, and I was just like, wow, this is awesome. What is this? Like, you know, I want to see that tonight so that my kids would be like, wow, I did not see that coming. That's going to be cool. So, Kevin, what about you? What are you looking forward to the most?
Well, I'm just looking forward to maybe some more spectacle with this year's awards, because I think last year they really, for very obvious reasons, weren't able to do the big Dolby Theater experience. But it sort of felt lower rent, if I may say, than the usual Oscar affair, which I think should be just the highest honor, and it should feel very important, not self-important necessarily, but still have that level of grandeur to it, which is something that I personally always have responded to. What I'm worried about is exactly the nature of what they're going to try to do in terms of trying to lure in an audience that might not necessarily be the average Oscar fan like us, and sort of go to some, you know, some things that distract us from what we're actually trying to honor here, which is these specific movies. So yeah, I'm sort of like cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of like saying the same thing. We're like, yeah, you know, I'm hoping, I think this is going to be good. Because, like, I think the Oscars should be massive and, like, jaw-dropping and full of, like, grandiosity and, like, gravitas. Like, we're talking about filmmaking and cinema, and that's something that I think has kept us sane throughout these 2 years of absolute hell for so many people. And I also think it's a snapshot in time. It's history. I mean, Kevin, you of all people, you are like a historian for the Oscars. You're a fantastic podcast, and if you haven't heard it yet, guys, you should all be downloading it on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. But, you know, like, this is history, and this is going to tell us what the industry thought about cinema in the year 2021 and what they missed out on as well. We get to talk about things that didn't even make it to the Oscars. So anyway, there's so much more to talk about. I want to stick with actress because David brought it up. Yes, we've all got a bit of heartburn over that one. I'm losing sleep. Yes, I do need to get out more, but that's a whole other show, right? So let's talk about actress. I'm sticking with Chastain. I'd like to know, just if you could pipe up real quick, who has switched to Cruz in this?
I have. I will fully admit it. I'm on the bandwagon now.
You're on the
bandwagon. With you, Rob.
Okay, thank you. Sammy, I'm going to start
with
you because I think you all agree, whoever gets this right, good on you, but really, this is literally flip a coin and see what happens. I think it's going to be super close, and I just really honestly can't be bothered changing to Cruz. I just want to stick with Chastain. I've been with her for a few weeks. I was always Kristen Stewart. I was Stewart until a week ago because I just thought I was trying to think, what argument can I make for Stewart? I can't say I really like her performance because who cares? I can't say that it's a really popular film with the Academy because there's no evidence. She won a couple of things like the Hollywood Critics Association or whatever, but okay, great. But that's it. So I had to switch to Chastain because it just made more sense to me. But now I'm hearing about Cruz. But before we move on to the Cruz train, Sam, you're still on the Chastain train. Tell us why.
Well, mostly because I often make these, last minute decisions to switch my predictions, and it always bites me in the ass. So I am trying not to do that this year. But I think Chastain she obviously has the wins to back it up. And it's a transformative performance. It is also nominated for hairstyling and makeup, just like Meryl was with the Iron Lady. It seems like it's going to pick that up, I think, the Makeup and Hairstyling Award. So it seems like the typical type of transformative role that usually wins here. And I know you were talking about before, like, is she really overdue? It's not really about overdue to me. The sentiment is more like it's time. Jessica Chastain has been putting in so much quality work she often puts out multiple films a year that are incredible roles. And I think people are finally rallying around this point that it's time. Obviously, we've seen with polls that Penelope Cruz has really done a lot of campaigning and has got her film seen in this final stretch. And I'm expecting chaos all over the place this year, but I still think Chastain just has the right role, and it's kind of the right time for her. So I'm sticking with Chastain.
I don't think I could have possibly said it better myself because I think that's where I'm headed. I'm just like, she's not overdue, but I feel Jessica Chastain has given us wonderful performance after wonderful performance, and it's kind of time. It makes sense for her to grab that Oscar. But I'm a huge fan of Penelope Cruz. She already has an Oscar for Vicky Cristina Barcelona, and she's been nominated for an Almodovar film before. That was, I think, for Volver. Could be wrong, but I think it was for Volver. So I would love to see Penelope Cruz win for a Almodovar performance. I've always wanted to see that, and this could be the night that it happens. So, Kevin, why do you think Cruz has this now in the bag?
Well, if I may offer a counter argument, it seems to me in the past few years or so, the membership seems to be caring less about narrative and whether it's somebody's time. And generally speaking, I know this. I learned this the hard way with Glenn Close. I'm still not over it. So there's that. There's the fact that, Chadwick Boseman couldn't win last year. There's the fact that Viola Davis couldn't win and be the second Black actress to win Best Actress. I just feel like when the Academy just prefers something else, they just go with that. And I sort of feel like, to piggyback off what actually Tony was saying before, I do think that, members are catching up to Parallel Mothers over the last few weeks or so. And if we're going to sort of use the same argument that CODA is surging at the right time, I sort of think the same for Penelope. And the fact that I do personally think that Parallel Mothers is the best film of the five. So I think that's something that they would prefer more so than something like they win for a weaker vehicle. So yeah, and the fact that the membership is becoming more international, I think it sort of has all the right ingredients for me to predict an upset. On top of the fact that I also think that I don't think that SAG is always going to line up anymore now that SAG membership has just exploded with all these influencers and all kinds of people, that I don't think it's going to be 4 for 4.
Yeah, all those arguments make a lot of sense. But you've both kind of really laid out very good arguments as the lawyer here in this panel. I'm telling you, you both did very well in court. Now, here's the problem for me. I just think, well, okay, lots of statistics are going to fall this year, and I think more as we get more and more into the Oscars with a new membership or expanded membership, preferential voting, and so forth, the statistics are going to matter less and less. And so, which is great, because I'm sick and tired of the precursors just kind of laying it all out for us. We get to Oscar night, we're like, yawn, yawn, yawn. Okay, let's move on to the Emmys, which really matters the most. So, David, you're going with Cruz as well.
Yeah.
What Kevin made a lot of sense. Are you pretty much thinking on the same page as Kevin, or do you have other reasons why you're going with Cruz?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with Kevin. I would also say two things. Parallel Mothers, even though we don't think it was as seen at the time of the nominations, has as many nominations as Tammy Faye overall. They both have two nominations. And also, somebody raised in the comments the concern about, well, if Tammy Faye is winning, hair and makeup, how is it not going to win actress? And just to go back to Kevin's point about Viola last year, Ma Rainey won makeup and costume design, and it couldn't bring either of its SAG-nominated actors across the finish line at Oscar. So, I'm not too concerned about those points. I think Parallel Mothers is peaking at precisely the right time. Many more people are seeing it than I anticipated. And it is, another collaboration between Cruz and Almodovar. And I think people, know that. And I think they want to award this performance. Certainly the passion in the past few weeks is there.
Yeah. It's going to completely blow a lot of our predictions out of the water and a lot of the statistics and all the thinking behind it all. And so next year we'll be looking back, whatever happens. And I think that's a good thing. We just need to see the Oscars go their own way. And it'll be very hard for us to explain how Penelope did so badly throughout the last few months, particularly at BAFTA. That really puzzled me. But anyway, if she ends up winning, I will be thrilled for her. I couldn't care less that I got it wrong. Speaking of getting it wrong, everybody, the prediction center is still open. Okay, I think 3:45 is when it closes, 3:45 p.m. Pacific time. So you've got time to make some changes. If we're saying anything that's making you think, yeah, I might change that, go ahead and change it now, because otherwise you're going to miss out. You want to get 23 out of 23. Actress is probably where it's going to pivot for a lot of people, right? It's a coin toss. So make your predictions. If you haven't made them yet, go in there and do it. What are you waiting for? We've got 9,200 people predicting this year. That's incredible. You don't want to miss out. You don't want to get the FOMO. So get on there. Hurry up. Move on and come back. Now, I want to talk about something that's actually really important to me. It's not important to the Academy, apparently, or the producers, but film editing is actually really important to the art of filmmaking. It's probably one of the most critical below the line, if you want to call it. I think they're above the line. I think they're stars. Category of the night. And yet it's not even being presented live, which is ridiculous. It's being edited into the show. Another stupid hypocrisy. But anyway, I've got to stay positive. I've been taking all my medication. I'm trying to stay positive, okay? So, what's winning editing? I don't freaking know. I've got no idea. Like, I've been like Power of the Dog, Dune, King Richard, Don't Look Up. I don't know. Like, this is killing me. Tick, Tick, Boom. Like, wow. What a beautifully edited film. But it only got one other nomination. So, okay, I'm going to take a breath. David, I'm going to you first. What are you predicting for editing and why?
I'm going very far out on a limb, and I am predicting Tick, Tick, Boom. And here's why. Two reasons why. Number one, I think your comments perfectly encapsulate why something like that could happen. There is no clear front runner. I think there's going to be passion for all of these different films and support kind of amongst these different films. So something like Tick, Tick, Boom, which I think a lot of us expected to get into Best Picture, which has a lot of passion behind it, and as you said, which is so beautifully edited and has a lot of editing. We talk about the editing award as, what has the most editing often. And I don't say that pejoratively. I mean, there is a lot of editing to do to get this musical onto the screen, and it is so beautifully done. Like if you watch the therapy sequence alone, so much editing. So I think that could be something where there is passion for Garfield's performance. There's a lot of love for the film, even though it underperformed in terms of nominations. And I'm just going for it. Why not? My score is going to be terrible, but it could happen.
Yeah, you know what? Let's just remember, you know how in costume design we think, oh, the most costumes win. Well, why not the most editing? Like, and the loudest movie wins sound and so forth. And like in the past, there have been awards where just one film out of nowhere seems to win because it's just so beloved in that particular field. Like for example, I remember way back in the day, Thomas Newman lost for American Beauty in score to the Red Violin, I think it was, for John Corigliano. Like such a legend in like violin music and classical music, and that score was just so profoundly beautiful that it won. And so I'm thinking that is a reason why Tick Tick Boom, not because of the Red Violin, but because people just thought that was really well edited. It doesn't matter that it didn't get a lot of support elsewhere. So I think that could happen. I'm still sticking with Dune because I just think Dune is going to be like Mad Max Fury Road was a few years ago and just kind of win quite a few below the lines. And I thought it was beautifully edited as well. But I'm not sure. So what about you, Kevin? Where are you headed in the editing field?
I think in a very chaotic race that the safest pick might just win out in the end, which is why I'm just sticking with Dune, even though it didn't win any of the major precursors in a perhaps surprising way for some people. But I think, you know, the whole fact of it having a sound nomination, there's a technical component that for whatever reason helps in this category, even though it's not the same thing. But you know, Sound of Metal last year is a prime example of that. Yeah, so I think it has a lot of showy editing. I know it's 2.5 hours, but there's so much going on, the montages, action sequences, and still also too making this very dense story feel somewhat cohesive to an audience that may not know anything about this story beforehand, and making it comprehensible in that way. So I don't know. I think that has a slight edge, but honestly, I'm not even kidding. I would not be surprised by any of these films winning, even Don't Look Up, which also has a huge amount of editing going on there. So
Yeah, okay. It's a tough category. It's a great category. Like they really just killed it there. Sam, what about you?
I am also sticking with Dune, though I do think this is one of the toughest categories of the night. I think truly all 5 nominees have a kind of an equal shot because there has been no front runner. I think, you know, I understand what you're saying, David. Like Tick Tick Boom is so slick, and I might even choose it myself if I was a voter. But I think Dune is going to be like Mad Max, and I think when you look at past editing winners like Whiplash, Sound of Metal, they all like match up with sound. They've all had some sort of below the line support in addition, and I think that gives it to Dune in a very complex race. I think this is kind of the safest option, and there's definitely moments in there that are huge standouts, like the battle on Arrakis alone is incredible and worthy of a win. I don't really. It's very hard to predict. I know a lot of people have switched to King Richard after it won drama at Ace, just for the tennis match, but I think there's even more than just the one scene for Dune. I think King Richard would just be winning based off that one scene, and it doesn't have any other additional below the line support other than song. So I think a lot of people are going to check off Dune just because it's cinema. It is huge cinema at its best.
It really is. Like, it surprised me it didn't win an Ace like that at the American Cinema Editors Award, which is a good kind of little tea leaf to read before the Oscars. King Richard did. So did Tick Tick Boom in the comedy side, comedy musical. But yeah, I think Dune is like phenomenally edited, and even in the quiet moments, there's a scene where someone is killed or someone is injured, and there's a scene where he has to go into this room with this the big Harkonnen guy is in the room, and it's so beautifully edited. It's just like I was completely awestruck with the editing in that film, and I don't think I'm alone there. I think it's going to win. So editing's really tough, but there's also cinematography, and when we're talking about Mad Max Fury Road, that won a bunch of awards, but it didn't win cinematography, which is ridiculous. But okay, here we are. So I have a feeling, and I'm really clutching at straws here, but I have a feeling that Dune's going to win a bunch of these, but not cinematography, even though it won at the ACE, and we're all at the ASC, American Society of Cinematographers. We're all going to be pulling our hair out, but I just have a feeling that they're going to make history and give this to Ari Wegner, who was a cinematographer for The Power of the Dog, and it will be the first time a woman has won, which is ridiculous, but it's finally time for a woman to win Best Cinematography. And I am even imagining her, she might even, pay tribute to Helena Hutchinson, who was the poor cinematographer who was shot on the set of Rust. And I'm just hoping for that. Maybe I'm manifesting it, Anyway, look, I think cinematography is between Dune and Power of the Dog. Two Aussies, okay, so the two Aussies in the field are out in front. What's new? So, okay, David, what do you think about cinematography? Because it's a tough one.
It's very tough. I think I have Power of the Dog right now, and the reason I say I think is because I'm still waffling on Best Picture. I do think, in terms of campaign-wise, Power of the Dog did so well in nominations, but I do feel like the cinematography nomination has been front and center in the campaign. I think people know. I think the cinematography is absolutely beautiful. I also think if you're predicting Power of the Dog for Best Picture, I'm a little bit ambivalent about just predicting it for picture and director, and this seems like that key third trophy that it could pick up. So I have Power of the Dog now, but again, not predicting Dune here is giving me great pause. So I'm not sold on Power of the Dog yet.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Kevin, what about you? What do you think about cinematography?
Yeah, I think this is a super close race. I wouldn't be surprised either way. But honestly, my instinct is that all this love for the Power of the Dog has to show itself in one technical category, and this one makes the most sense. And as you said, Ari Wegner would be making history, first woman in 94 years to win this category. I don't know how much voters actually know that, but I could see some people being compelled to vote for her because of that, on top of the work, which I think is pretty spectacular, and not only just like the vistas and everything, but I do think the more intimate scenes between the characters and showing the power dynamic between all these different characters would... It's a credit to her that she was able to draw that out. So I'm very weakly predicting Power of the Dog, but don't feel great about it.
It's an incredibly amazing. It's really good work from Ari Wegner. It's not just beautiful vistas, okay? It's like close-ups. There's some beautiful work with horses where she captures their certain angles from the horses, and Cody Smith-McPhee's face, and the scene where he is, putting that thing on. I'm not even making any sense. Sam, take over. I'm so verklempt.
Y'all were just saying that narrative doesn't matter, and now you think she's going to win because she makes history. But I do think it's between them. The curious thing is, like, right now, I don't have Power of the Dog winning picture. And so the only thing it's winning in my predictions is director for Jane Campion, which I know a lot of people are in that boat too, which would be very rare, not impossible, but very rare for a film to only win director and no other awards. So I do have a hunch that Power of the Dog is going to surprise somewhere, be it cinematography or editing or screenplay. It could surprise here, but I just think Greg Fraser, it is so epic in scope in Dune, and that also is, there's the epicness of the outdoor shots, of the sand dunes, of the battles, but then there is also like these incredible lingering extreme close-ups, like especially when they're in interiors, and the way he plays between that is really beautiful. And he also just had the Batman come out during this race, which kept him, I think, top of mind, because that's also incredibly beautiful work there too. So I do think I have Dune in this one. I've debated switching him out for Power of the Dog, but I don't want to get it wrong as to which place Power of the Dog surprises. So I've kept it with Dune for this one.
Yeah, it's such a tough category. Like the tragedy of Macbeth, like West Side Story, like there's some beautiful work in this category. It's one of my favorites. I look forward to cinematography every year, as well as original score, and best sound. Which imagine if you're in the sound branch, and you're promised, if you combine your categories, you get to stay on the show. You're important, and then what happens? You get shunted. I'm still getting over that whole thing. But with sound, I'm pretty confident that Dune has that in the bag. Like, I just watched that over the weekend, again, in 4K, and I was blown away by how beautifully done the sound is there. Does anyone in this group think that Dune is not winning sound?
No. I'll answer for everyone, no.
No. Good. I think that's pretty much locked in. And speaking of locked in, I think visual effects is probably the other category that we had in our little window now. And I think visual effects is another one where Dune will win. Not only is it just so beautifully done, but it's the most groundbreaking of the five because it uses a lot of practical effects. And although it would be really cool to see Spider-Man No Way Home win because that was the #1 film of 2021. It was such a great movie that made many of us very happy. I just can't see that happening this time, unfortunately. And so I also think I think you all agree that Dune is winning visual effects, right?
Yeah, I think if they cared about giving Spider-Man something, they would have put it in picture. Like I don't think they care about.
Yeah, you're right. I just don't think they care. And we had similar discussions, I think, way back when Endgame came out. And people were like, oh, that should get a lot of attention because it was so awesome and it finished the Infinity Saga. And no one really cared at the Academy. They didn't even give it visual effects. So, okay, they're the 4 categories we're going to cover in this particular window. We've also covered actress. Is there anything in the acting categories, guys, that you think could happen? Because we are all pretty much saying Troy Kotsur and Will Smith and Ariana DeBose. Is there a chance any of those 3 could lose? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think the race in acting to watch out for is lead actress. I feel like, a lot of people doubted Will Smith at the start of the season, but if Benedict Cumberbatch was going to win, he would have taken him down at BAFTA. If Andrew Garfield was going to win, he would have taken him down at SAG, which is a super Netflix-friendly voting group. So I don't think Will Smith can be stopped. And the other 2 supporting races have kind of settled into place long ago.
Yeah.
I just personally had like a slight feeling, like a 1% chance. So like it's not going to happen, but it just entered my mind that, Kirsten Dunst has been in the business for so long, and you compare it to Ariana DeBose, who's more new, at least to the film world, that maybe, and the fact that that's such a juicy, compelling supporting part for her, that there's a possibility, but I think she's kind of a distant runner-up.
Yeah. I was even thinking like yesterday, I was like, what if we are all overestimating CODA and it just walks away with Troy Kotsur and doesn't win anything else, and then in the same vein, Power of the Dog is stronger than we all realize, and Kirsten Dunst manages to pull off a huge shocker. We've seen shocks before, okay? Like, I really did not think Glenn Close was going to lose to Olivia Colman, okay? And that still surprises me. And I just think, like, let's just hold on to our hats. I think it's going to be a really fun night. Now, as I say that, I want to invite our next panelists in, and we've got Charles Bright. Oh no, Charles Bright, he's a troublemaker. Daniel Montgomery and Tom O'Brien. So just and more stars are joining us while we have to say goodbye to our East Coasters, and that's Sam Eckmann and Kevin Jacobsen, and of course David Buchanan. It was so great to see you guys, and I hope you have the best night. Enjoy. I want to hear all your snarky comments, and I'll see you later.
Thank you, Rob.
Right. Well, look at this guy in the middle here. Like he's just one of my favorite people on earth. He's such a nice person. Tom, it's so great to see you, man. Welcome.
Good to see you, and Charlie. Oh, as always.
Oh, look at Charlie. Look at your hair. It's just on point again. I saw you on Friday and it was like, what is going on with you? You look great. So, welcome. I'm not sure what's happening with Daniel, but we'll just kick off without him until he arrives.
Yay!
Hello, Daniel. Oh, fun. It's so good to see you, Daniel. I saw you the other day as well. It's good to see you again. Now, so Daniel Montgomery, he's dialing in from the East Coast, from New York City. And Charles, he is the upcoming Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, and he's dialing in from the great Commonwealth of Virginia. I know that because I was.
Once all the sexual harassment suits are settled.
Yeah, look, we're hoping for the best, Charlie. Look, you got to do what you got to do. And Tom, I'm pretty sure that you're dialing in from Palm Springs. Am I right?
I am indeed, where it is 100 degrees today.
Wow,
spring is here.
So that's
and it
cold.
Snowed here in New York, by the way, today.
Really did? Oh God. Wow. Sorry.
Like it's so.
No, I prefer it to 100 degrees.
Okay.
Yeah, I take the snow any day. Now, I've got no segue there. Look, we are going to talk firstly about actors because I think that's where it's such a cliche. It's like all the Oscar people, the Oscar punt. Everyone's obsessed with best actress, but no, we really have to be this time because it's just like, I don't know, like throw 5 things up in the air and see what lands, and then just go with that. That's what I'm pretty much doing at this point. If any of these 5 win, we will be able to make arguments for them somehow. Maybe not Nicole Kidman, but I reckon we could all make arguments for them. Maybe not Olivia Colman, but I reckon we could. So, Tom, I haven't heard from you in a while. I'd like to know, are you on the cruise train? Are you cruising, or are you on the Chastain train?
Well, I'm kind of more of a stats guy than anything. And I have to look back at who has actually won something from a group that includes Academy voters. And that's the SAG Award, and that's Chastain. I know that there's been a huge push towards Cruz in the last week on film Twitter, and a lot of anonymous ballots listing her. But she, except for a few critics awards, she hasn't actually won anything. And she wasn't even long listed on the list of 15 at BAFTA. So given the fact that Chastain has already won something with voters and Cruz has yet to win her first, I'm a little skeptical that the Oscar is going to be where Cruz notches her first victory. But as you said, anything can happen in this category.
Okay, that's good. So you're on my side at this point in time, and really, frankly, I don't. At this point, anyone could win. And by the way, everybody, we've got like less than I think just over 45 minutes until the prediction center closes. You need to start making your choices. You need to get in there. 45 minutes, guys. Make your predictions. Change them. Fix them up. Get them right. No excuses. Do it. Now, speaking of that, I've just kind of like, my anxiety's too high for this now. I can't keep switching back and forth. I've put my money on Chastain, and I'm going to stick with her to the dying breath. Daniel, what about you?
Exact same reasoning as Tom, actually. I'm with Chastain, and it could be Cruz, but I never make predictions based on anonymous Oscar ballots because it's such a small selective sample size of people who will the group of Oscar voters who will do one of these Oscar anonymous ballots and who might be multiple reported if one voter is talking to 3 different outlets and suddenly you've got 3 votes for Penelope Cruz. So you never really know how that's going to shake out. So I never make predictions based on that. And there's really no other reason to predict Cruz for me. So like Tom said, the only one who's won an award from industry of this group is Chastain. So I'm sticking with her. It could be any of them. I could make the case for Olivia Colman because last year we were talking about Carey Mulligan versus Andra Day versus Viola Davis, and then it was Frances McDormand, the woman who had won like 3 years ago. And now it could be Olivia Colman, the woman who won like 3 or 4 years ago. So you never know. Like, I mean, I'd be perfectly happy if they chose Kristen Stewart too. Like, just choose chaos. Like, I mean, pick someone we're not actually arguing between. That would actually be more fun.
Yeah. We have to go with evidence. Okay. Like, that's my lawyer side. And I never put any stock in the anonymous ballots. Like, that's a tiny little sample size of thousands and thousands of voters. So I just think that's a really interesting read and really fun, but I just completely dismiss it. And then it's like, we've got no other evidence. Okay, like even Anthony Hopkins won at BAFTA last year. Okay, so there was some evidence there. And okay, BAFTA screwed up, so to speak, with Best Actress, although I think they did an amazing job because they kind of went their own way. and weren't trying to be the critics' choice. Okay,
I
they were
much
just
prefer that. Like, just
Yeah.
do your own thing. Every awards group. One, it makes the Oscars more interesting because we won't have every group in lockstep around a group of nominees and winners. But it's also just like, you're the British Academy. What makes you less of an entity than the, American Motion Picture Academy? It's like you don't have to, pledge fealty to the Oscars. Do your own thing.
Oh, music to my ears, Daniel. That's exactly what I think. So that's why I just think, like, with evidence, this is Chastain. But that being said, Charlie, talk some sense into us, please, if you can.
I think because that this category is the most what's the word I'm looking for? The most up in the air of the 4 acting categories. I think some people were looking at well, then who is the coalescing for who would voters coalesce around as the alternative to Chastain, because that's what we don't have.
Yeah.
And with these anonymous Oscar ballots, that gave us the excuse to speculate about that. And it's very possible it could be true. But you stole my phrase, Rob, earlier in this broadcast when you said it's a snapshot in time. And, yeah. And so those, and we don't know. Not only but what Daniel was saying about how we don't know if some of these anonymous Oscar voters are talking with multiple outlets. It's also like if they're disproportionately from the writing branch, then that might factor in that, because maybe more writers who are voting for Best Actress will vote for Penelope Cruz. There's a bunch of variables in there that I don't think, but this race is almost nothing but variables, with the hard exception of Chastain's SAG win, and that's what I'm gonna go with in the end.
Okay, so all 4 of us in this particular window are going with Chastain. It's very interesting. But again, as Tony mentioned at the outset, whatever you're going with, good on you, because this is really a crapshoot, and there's no right or wrong at this point in time, because I just think it's so close. And
I do think we should not factor out as a dark horse Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of a Woman. I really think that she has a very
God, she was so good in that. How come she's not won anything this season? I'm really confused. Anyway, that's a whole other story. Do any of you think that 3 other acting categories are going to see a surprise? Are we pretty comfortable with Will Smith, Ariana DeBose, and Troy Kotzer? I think we are.
I think so. I think
I'm like 99% in those other 3. Like, I do think there's a ghost of a chance. Like, I mean, Best Supporting Actor is still a 2-way race between Troy Kotzer and Cody Smith-McPhee. And, since that category has a clear alternative, who was the front runner for most of the season until SAG, like that's a one that could potentially upset. And I do think with Ariana, she's like, I'm 99% sure Ariana's winning this. But West Side Story has underperformed at a lot of places, specifically at industry awards. And I wonder if there might be a sense of, oh yeah, well, the Oscars did this already 60 years ago. And not only is she playing the same role, it's like the same scenes, the same songs, everything Rita Moreno did, with variations that Spielberg changed. So if they want to do something different, I could see that happening. I can see it being Kirsten Dunst. I can see Will Smith pulling Anjanou Ellis along with him. But again, that's a sliver of a chance. I don't think it's likely.
Yeah, I think that with Cody sweeping the Critics Awards, people thought, oh, well, he's a shoo-in. But once Troy Kotzer had that speech at SAG, which was extraordinary and just electrified the room, and his speeches after that have gotten better and better, I think people are voting for him just to get an Oscar speech, because I think it's going to be one of the highlights of the evening.
He's this year's Ya Jung-yoon. Like, she won at SAG. And that sort of solidified that race. And she charmed the pants off of everyone in Hollywood with every single acceptance speech she gave. And it just became this, freight train that wouldn't stop. And I think Troy Kotzer is the same.
Yeah. Let's move on to Best Picture, because I think, that's become a 2-horse race, because it feels so cliche. But, Power of the Dog had so much momentum, but lately a lot of people have realized that CODA is so beloved. And Charlie, I think you said it quite beautifully the other day when you and I were chatting about this, and how it is a snapshot in time. And we have all been through hell. let's be honest, some people have not even gotten through this, with their lives. It's been a really tough 2 years, and now we're on the precipice of a very significant geopolitical war in Ukraine. So we're all very preoccupied with the reality of the world today. And CODA is a film that just was so beautiful. I think it was Tony that was saying it was like a balm, and that really rings true for me. Charlie, do you think that CODA is pretty much going to win this?
I think CODA's going to go 3 for 3 tonight, and it's going to join Gigi, Last Emperor, and Lord of the Rings: Return of the King in winning Best Picture and every other one of its nominations. It is what you were saying. It is interesting because last year's Nomadland win was so interesting because it felt so outside of what the Oscars did. But even if you didn't like Nomadland, because of the whole idea of isolation, really, really encaptured what was the predominant thing of 2020. And I think the predominant feeling at the end of 2021 is exhaustion. I think maybe a lot of us were maybe too hopeful going into the beginning of last year and thinking that things would get better, but no, it's like everything is a painful struggle that you have. That's like trying to give a cat a bath. It's just painful and awful, and you wish you hadn't done it. And you probably ruin a couple of tile fixtures along the way as well. But the whole thing with CODA is that it's something that people like. It's sentimental, and this is to what, and I was talking with Daniel about this, and Daniel said that its sentimentality is such a hard thing to do right, and CODA does it right. And at the end of everything that we have been for, not just this past year, but the past 2 years, because what is time anymore? It doesn't even matter. It's something that you watch and you just feel so damn good. You feel so damn good at the end of it, and you don't feel like you're a massive tool for liking it. So I think that's what's going to and the fact that and again, that BAFTA win for screenplay, it had no business winning that. That was to me the moment where I went, oh, this is going to a whole other thing.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Daniel in a sec, but I want to go to Tom because Tom, you're a writer, and what were your thoughts when CODA won at BAFTA for screenplay? Did that make you think, oh, this film's got some traction here, it could actually go the whole way?
Yeah, the fact that not only did it beat a Jane Campion script, but CODA wasn't even nominated for Best Picture from the BAFTAs. So, I mean, the fact that they went out of their way to honor it indicates that what Charlie was talking about, that desire to feel good about your choice, really extends to the international voters as well. Because I was worried that CODA would just seem too American. And that BAFTA win really was a big step for it. And also, the Producers Guild award is a huge one towards Best Picture. And when it won that, on top of the SAG Ensemble, that was when voting was still going on. And a lot of this is voting timing too. 2 weeks ago, The Power of the Dog had this, but the set of wins building up during the time that voters were actually marking their ballots, that I think will have a very big impact and result in a CODA win.
Okay, that's interesting. Daniel, just tell me what to do.
Well, I'm predicting CODA. And I was a CODA skeptic for after it won SAG, it felt sort of like the Penelope Cruz at the time. It's like everyone's going ooh, now is this gonna win? Is this gonna win? I was like, hold your horses, we'll see how the rest of the season goes. And then it won the BAFTA for screenplay, which was a huge canary in the coal mine. And then it won the Producers Guild. So I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna switch to CODA. Because it made sense then. But honestly, Power of the Dog could still win. This Academy is more international. They're a little bit artsier. The Academy that voted for Moonlight or Parasite, for Nomadland last year. And honestly, as much as CODA is a feel-good film, as someone with depression, I find that I usually steer into the skid more, and my favorite movies are the super sad ones. so really, Power of the Dog is a movie for our times as well. But yeah, I'm going CODA, and if CODA wins picture, I think it wins all three. I think when we get to that best adapted screenplay category, tonight, if it goes CODA, that probably means CODA wins best picture. If it's Power of the Dog, then it's probably Power of the Dog, but actually still could be CODA because Spotlight won with just one other win. I feel like Power of the Dog needs that screenplay award though.
Yeah, absolutely. I refuse to believe that Power of the Dog is going to walk away with just one. Or none. I just think it's going to win. Campion, we're going to talk about later, but I just think it has to win more than that, surely. But Tom Gladstone.
Can I just add one thing to this? I was actually thinking about this earlier because sometimes I like to find historical parallels. And to me, what this kind of feels like is 1976 when Rocky beat out Network, All the President's Men, and Taxi Driver for Best Picture. Because Rocky was that film after America had been through the absolute shit show of the early and mid 70s. People wanted to feel good about that stuff again. And Here Comes Rocky, this film that is about, that is about everything that the promise of America is supposed to be, and you had people literally jumping up and down in the theaters at the end of it. And now people want to feel good again. They want to feel happy. They want to remember what happiness is. And it just all feeds into that. And so I think they're going to go positive this time.
I just think Tom Gladstone in our comments mentioned that Power of the Dog is the third lowest ranked IMDb scored film in the last 10 years, just behind Tree of Life and Mank. And that is interesting only for this reason, because Power of the Dog is very divisive. So I know a lot of people who love it. I'm one of those people. And I know a heck of a lot of people who thought it was boring, who thought it was just dumb or not engaging, pretentious. And most of those people are usually not necessarily film buffs. They're just regular people, especially on social media. I've seen a lot of people who are like, that movie was boring and yuck and I didn't like it. And that's fine. Everyone loves different things, and that's totally cool to have your own opinion. But I'm just thinking the wonderful Anne Thompson was the one that coined the phrase the steak eater. And the Academy is full of the steak eaters, right? And they're the ones that just don't really care for that really high art. And they're probably the reason why Brokeback Mountain lost to Crash, as well as the ridiculous homophobia that perhaps turned off a lot of those people who didn't like it. And I have a feeling that could be a reason for why Power of the Dog is also faltering, and people are trying to find an alternative. And that alternative appears to be CODA. People are rallying now for a film that makes them feel good, that has no really kind of problematic gay stuff, and where it's quiet for 20 minutes and where there's a lot of moodiness, and it's just a really beautiful movie that people can enjoy, about family and about love of your kids and about ambition and also about the deaf community. So with all of that in the background, I think that it makes sense for us to be suggesting that CODA is probably now the front runner. And I think so. I think you guys have really given me some really good insight there. We do have to move on though, because we're running out of time. We are going to talk also about three categories plus the shorts. I think score is pretty much, I think we're all comfortable that Hans Zimmer is going to win his second Oscar after winning for The Lion King way back in the day.
Should have won for Interstellar.
Should have won for Interstellar. Totally, Daniel. I listen to that all the time. It's just an amazing score. He should have been nominated for
morons with your Interstellar worship.
Oh my god. Can we just eject him? Because I think also, maybe Johnny Greenwood could do it, but I just think this is probably Hans Zimmer's year. Or even Jermaine Franco for Encanto should be the first Latina to win, I think, in this category. I think she's the first nominee as well, which is incredible. That's a beautiful soundtrack. That's been #1 on the US charts for a very long time. So I don't know if we have a lot to talk about there. Does anyone have anything to add quickly before we move on?
No.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I was skeptical about Zimmer for a while because, again, it's been so long since he last won. He keeps managing to not win another Oscar, but like he's just been winning everywhere. And he even beat British Johnny Greenwood at the BAFTAs. So I feel like, okay, yeah, he's probably going to win this one.
Yeah, totally. But I want to move on to song because that is not really in the bag. Like there's been a lot of debate about that. So I think that we're pretty much. I mean, Diane Warren has been nominated. This is her 13th nomination without a win. And I think it's probably between Lin-Manuel Miranda for Dos Oruguitas, who might win the EGOT if he does. He's not going to be there, unfortunately, because he has COVID. Or no, his wife has COVID, sorry. Or it could be Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell for No Time to Die. Every time Phineas and Billie seem to be nominated at other awards, they win. They're very popular. And frankly, I'm probably a little biased because in this household, this is a Billie Eilish household. We love her. My daughter loves her. So I've got to recuse myself, like what Justice Clarence Thomas should be doing. But I'm going to recuse myself on the song category. I'd like to know what you guys think. Tom, what do you think about Best Original Song?
Well, you're right, Rob, because Billie Eilish has won everything so far. And there is a history of the Bond themes winning recently, the combination of the Bond title and the song being sung by an artist who is rising to the peak of his or her artistic career. It happened with Adele, it happened with Sam Smith, and now Billie Eilish fits that perfectly. And also, she has been around everywhere around here because she also had her documentary shortlisted, and she was campaigning for that. And a few weeks ago, just before voting started, she and Phineas were here plugging their songs from Turning Red, which was starting on Disney Plus. So they have been very, very present in the campaign. But if it's anybody who has out-campaigned them, it's been Lin. He's had 4 films this year, involved in 4 films, and he has been and everyone loves him. The EGOT is, he's 1-0 away from the EGOT. If he loses here, he's going to have another chance. I know it would be nice. In a way, I hope he doesn't win because he's not going to be there to accept it. I would love that moment when he gets up before the audience and he realizes how much people truly love him. But if I'm going to pick, I think it's going to be No Time to Die.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate what Todd McCarthy says in our comments, because Diane Warren should have won for that Gaga song, and he's saying it's the worst Bond song ever that Sam Smith won for, The Writings on the Wall. I don't agree it's the worst Bond song. I don't mind it, and I'm a huge Sam Smith fan, but that was very hard to swallow, and that's why we're still talking about
the Radiohead song. It should have been the Radiohead song that they had originally done.
I know, but I just think Diane Warren, what does she have to do? At least she's nominated for a film that no one saw, just because of the respect that people have for her. I did a songwriters panel for Gold Derby a little while ago, and we had a lot of the songwriting people who were shortlisted. And before we started recording, they were all kowtowing to her. They were like, "I'm so honored to be on this with you. You are a legend." Just the way they were treating her, she really is the queen of Oscar songwriting, and she will get an Oscar one day. So
I hope she does. I just wish that the Academy wouldn't be having these throwaway nominations for her. Nominate her again when she's going to win.
That's right. Stop putting her through this torture.
Yeah.
So,
I kind of think that if she ever does win, it's going to be one of these wins that comes out of nowhere, very much like what happened with Randy Newman when he finally won after all those failed nominations. Very much in the same way. He would keep on getting, even when he wasn't showing up at Globes or anything else, he would still get in and then lose. And so that's why I have Diane Warren at number 2, actually, for original song. But I still think it's so No Time to Die is so out front with that.
Okay, well, that makes me feel good. But Daniel, you get the final word on original song.
I'm actually going with Lynn. I feel like it could go either way. I feel like it's a little sad because no offense to her, who is a fantastic artist, but I feel like if either of No Time to Die or Dos Oruguitas were nominated last year, it would have won it in a walk. Last year was such a weird year where there didn't seem to be a lot of passion for any of the songs nominated, and Billie Eilish almost could have won that Oscar, if No Time to Die hadn't been delayed a year. But yeah, Lin-Manuel Miranda to me seems more like he's in the club in terms of the Oscar family, the movie family. He directed his first film this year, which got 2 Oscar nominations. In the Heights, based on his musical, which he was featured in, that was last year, and of course, Encanto, which not only was a popular Disney musical, but it had unprecedented success for a Disney musical on the Billboard charts. It's an incredible, even Let It Go from Frozen was not as big a crossover hit as We Don't Talk About Bruno, and even Surface Pressure. There are cuts on that album that are top 10, top 20 hits. And so I feel like they're going to give him credit for all of that. It will be a little bit sad, and it'll almost be a little bit fitting because we haven't had a big televised EGOT moment in a while. The last few, last one was Alan Menken. It was a daytime Emmy, and it was in a creative arts category. So that was on a webcam that he got that EGOT. And before that, it was John Legend, Andrew Lloyd Webber, and Tim Rice, which was Creative Arts Emmys that they won that. So this could have been the big EGOT moment on TV, and yet unfortunately, Lin-Manuel Miranda is not able to attend. So it would actually be keeping with a trend if that happened.
Yeah, we are so running out of time, guys, unfortunately. Documentary feature, most people are going with Summer of Soul. I think I'm going with Flea because I just feel like it. By the way, we have less than 20 minutes until the end of the prediction center is closed, everybody, so please get on that. Does anyone not have Summer of Soul? I don't think you do, although I think some of you are saying that Attica could be a spoiler, right? I think, Charlie, you've been mentioning that. Unfortunately,
I've been mentioning it, but I think if anything might be a spoiler, it's Flea.
Yeah. I really want to just talk about the shorts really quickly because that's where it makes or breaks your Oscar predictions. This year, unfortunately, with so much going on in my life this year, I just haven't really had a chance to watch any of them, and I'm going with consensus. And I'm just going to really just cheat and steal Charlie's predictions. Before, Charlie, you have your final say on that, and we have to keep this super brief, guys, but if you could Tom, just tell me very quickly who you're going for in each of the 3 categories, bang, bang, bang.
Are you asking me or Tom?
No, Tom.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to go with the favorites. If you're in your Oscar pool, if you go with the favorites, you usually get at least 2 right. So I'm going with Robin. Not my favorite Aardman animated film, but it's got stars, and if there are stars in it, they tend to go for it. And it's the only family film. And the other 4 nominees are very adult, and they haven't really popped. So Robin there. I think Queen of Basketball is going to win for the documentary short. It's moving, and it's a wonderful story, and I think voters are going to be very touched by it. And finally, Riz Ahmed hopefully will win an Oscar for The Long Goodbye. It's short, but it has a knockout punch, and it's a very, very powerful documentary. I mean, a live action short. So those would be the 3 I'd go for.
Daniel?
Yeah, I'm going with the same 3. I've gotten burned when I try and outsmart these categories, and really I watch them all and be like, oh, this makes sense, and I was predicting Dear Basketball a few years ago until I saw it, and then I was like, oh, it's really short, it's a little slight, then it won. So I've been burned before, so I'm just going with the odds. Queen, Long Goodbye, and Robin.
And Charlie?
So I do have Robin for animated short. It's tough to think of what would be the alternative there. I think it might be Bestia, but I think that the fact that it was also widely available on Netflix, Aardman, that should do well for it. Documentary short, Queen of Basketball. It's between Queen of Basketball and Audible, and either one would be a fantastic winner. I think Queen of Basketball I'm going to give the edge to, because it's just it's so charming. It's so charming, and it's impossible not to just fall in love with Lucy Harris by the end of it. Live action short is causing me considerable migraines and digestive issues, because I cannot, for the life of me, it's between Long Goodbye, which makes sense because it's very in your face, it's very shocking, very much the same way that like something like Skin or Two Distant Strangers was. It also has a very big star in it, and as Riz Ahmed also serving as co-writer. And then, but the other one is Ala Kachu, Take and Run, which has the most uncomfortable wedding scene I have ever seen in cinema. It's the one that tells the most complete story, and of the nominated films, it's the only one that has any sort of positive ending. And I'm trying to think. I have that in my prediction right now? But I think about last year with Two Distant Strangers and how that I don't think that's something that they're necessarily thinking about, because it was so bleak, and yet it still was able to win. I honestly might go back in and change it to Long Goodbye.
Well, on that note, I need to say goodbye to the three of you. It's lovely to see you all. Enjoy the night, and we'll see you afterwards. I'm now going to bring in Riley Chow, our director, who's finally going to be able to show his face, Denton, Davidson, and my compatriot, Matt Noble. If you could all come in. See you guys. It's great to see you all. Enjoy Oscar night, the high holy day.
Thanks.
So, Riley, thanks so much for all your hard work behind the scenes in directing this. You've done such a great job as usual. We're waiting on Matt Noble to join us, and hopefully he will be on shortly. But in the meantime, we get to say hi to Denton. Denton, you just relocated from Minneapolis to LA. How are you? Are you enjoying the day so far?
Oh, it's lovely. More sunlight, warm weather. It's above zero, so all is well.
Wow, what a dream. And Riley, you obviously you're from Vancouver, but you're currently in the Canary Islands because you are traveling slowly down the coast to Senegal as part of this Mercy Ships job that you're on. And how are you going today? What time is it over there in the Canary Islands?
It's almost midnight.
Yeah, I thought so. So it's getting late. You're almost in Luca's time zone. I think you're one time zone away from him. So this is truly international. I'm hoping Matt will join us because I really wanted the Aussies to finish out the night. That we'll just kick on without him until he's able to join. So guys, look, we have just talked ad nauseum about actress. I just wanted to quickly touch on it again before we move on. So Denton, are you on the cruise train or are you sticking with Chastain? Oh, right.
I'm sticking with Chastain. But I mean, it's fascinating to watch. This cruise thing just happened over the last week. And part of me was like, is this completely illogical? Like, why is everyone doing this? And then I was tempted to do it. But, she won, Chastain won the SAG, and Cruz wasn't even nominated there. So when you look at the history, I mean, no one has won Best Actress without a SAG nomination. And I think it's happened twice in any acting category, 2 or 3 times. So I'm sticking with Chastain. I would love it if Cruz won. I would also love it if Chastain won and all these people sort of went off that cliff and got me that extra point. Chastain, I just think Chastain's still the more logical choice.
Did you interview Jessica Chastain, Denton, when we had...
I interviewed Jessica Chastain and Penelope.
And I was going to say, because I know you interviewed...
Very lucky.
Because I watched that one. It was a great interview. I didn't remember the Chastain one. I didn't see that one, but I will watch it. So, yeah, you will have probably interviewed the Best Actress winner, which is so cool. So, Riley, what about you? Are you cruising or not?
I am cruising. And
I know.
It's a weird thing that we're all doing because, I don't know when we've really based a prediction solely off of anonymous ballots before, but these anonymous ballots are voting for all kinds of movies in the other categories, yet they're all voting for Penelope Cruz, it seems. So even though it is kind of a specific type of voter who would be, talking to the press, their, other preferences don't seem to align. Yet there's this passion for Penelope Cruz. So I'll say, sure, last year with the anonymous ballots, they went for Anthony Hopkins. And I would love to see Jessica Chastain win. I mean, she is my favorite actress, the only one I follow on Instagram. And I had her predicted very early in the season, put money on her, and so that's too bad.
Well, okay. Look, and I just wanted to mention, I'm watching the comments. Daniel Keneally has said the Aussies won't close out the ceremony, but they'll close out the pre-show. Them's are fighting words, because I think he's referring to Power of the Dog, which is an Aussie co-production, and I'm still rooting for. Although I love CODA as well, and I'm not in that film Twitter bubble where you have to hate one to love the other. I love both. They're both awesome films for different reasons. And as we've mentioned ad nauseum, CODA is a snapshot of the times. Power of the Dog, to me, is just a beautiful work of art. Either one would be a great choice. So I think CODA makes a lot of sense from the evidence that we've seen so far, but so does Power of the Dog. So I'm really confused. Denton, what are you going for Best Picture?
I'm one of the few that's going with Power of the Dog on this, actually. I think, and I've been going back and forth. If I wasn't on this chat right now, I would probably have time to go change it back to CODA. But I think Power of the Dog is going to do, I have Power of the Dog doing better than most people in general. I think it's going to win director. And I think it can win cinematography. I think it can win screenplay. Because I think we can all agree that if this wasn't a preferential ballot, the Power of the Dog would be the front runner to win easily. And CODA would be the first movie with less than 5 nominations to win Best Picture, I think, since 1933. So that it's just not precedented. It hasn't proven to have that below the line support. So I think the Power of the Dog can pull it off, and that's what I'm hoping. And I hope the Power of the Dog has a better night than most people do.
I totally hope so too. I'm with you there, man. I think Power of the Dog can do better than what many of us are expecting, and I hope that happens. Speaking of the Power of the Dog, we've got the power of Matt Noble now. Finally, thank you for joining us. I know you had computer issues. I'm so happy to see you. It's good now. We've got the Aussies. We've got 2 out of 4, so that makes me feel a bit better. Let's talk. Best Picture. Are you on CODA? Are you on Power of the Dog? Are you on Licorice Pizza? What's going on?
I changed my prediction about an hour ago to CODA. I've finally relented and thought that CODA might be in that spot, but I don't feel good about it. This is a really stressful Best Picture race this year. So my reasons are, I was thinking all season long that Belfast might have a late surge. And I really thought that could be the movie with heart that got voters sort of rallying. And it didn't really happen, didn't really pick up. So I went back to, okay, must be Power of the Dog. It's done so well with nominations. CODA I was always a little bit skeptical of because it didn't have the director nomination that often goes with a Best Picture champ, and maybe showed it wasn't as strong with the Academy. But it winning PGA, maybe it's co-opted that momentum that I thought Belfast would pick up at the end of the season. And it's a film with heart that I think people vote for. And I think with a system where you go for, where you need to get 50% of the ballots and they keep redistributing lower place ballots 50%, that helps a film with heart. We saw it happen, very different films, but Green Book was able to sort of, a film with maybe a bit more heart than the front runner that year, take the top spot. And I wonder if it's going to happen with CODA again. Also, I think, and I could get this wrong, I'm glad Riley's here, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but we've got of the films that have won Best Picture and not director the past couple of times, like of the last 4 times, I think half of them haven't had a best director nomination, Green Book and Argo. So that means that like maybe if there's a split between them, it's less important to have that director nomination.
Interesting. Riley, what do you think?
I'll go for myself here. Yeah, I've got CODA now. It's another weird thing that we're doing where, you know, it's this movie that was never a factor in the director race or the editing race. And yeah, it won PGA, but you know, we've had movies win PGA and lose at the Oscars before. The Oscars are often the best, barometer for the Oscars. If you look at their actual nominations, that'll indicate the movies that they like. And they didn't really seem to like CODA that much, given that it only has 3 nominations. And what gets me actually is not the BAFTA screenplay win for CODA, but it's this landslide victory that Troy Kotsur has over Cody Smith-McPhee that we see at all the precursors and also in these anonymous ballots where they're, again, voting for all kinds of different movies across other categories. If The Power of the Dog were stronger, he should have been able to put up a fight, I think. So that kind of makes me wonder, would CODA actually win even without the preferential ballot? I had worried for a long time that CODA was just a film that everybody kind of liked and maybe considered like a 7.5 out of 10, but there does seem to be passion for it that is manifested. I'm not sure what happened to Belfast.
Yeah, if a film with heart is going to kind of take over and you know be a snapshot of the times, why not Belfast? And that's what Matt was just saying. So yeah, this is just a tricky one. Before, just quickly, Matt, are you cruising or are you chastaining? Which side are you on at the moment?
I'm chastaining. I think that, look, to be honest, like this is the first time, since 2006 or something, that a Best Actress nominee hasn't been in a Best Picture. Yeah. So like, this is wild. Like, no, like, you know, some of the reasons that I discount Chastain or count against her, like, oh, she's not in the Best Picture nominee, she doesn't have many nominations. Like, that's the same for all the films, all the actresses, all her competitors, which I think helps her a lot. Like when Glenn Close beat, Glenn Close lost to Olivia Colman. Olivia Colman was in a film that had a lot more Academy support. So, yeah, I think Chastain, I'm just playing it safe. You've spoken a lot, Rob, in this chat, how this is a year of chaos. And I'm sort of falling, well, in a year of chaos, maybe the best thing someone can do is play it safe.
Totally right. You really can't lose then. You're just like, play it down the line, play it with consensus. Like that's what I've done as well with a couple of outliers. So speaking of maybe an outlier, makeup and hairstyling, a lot of people are going with Tammy Faye. I find it really hard to believe that Tammy Faye is going to win 2 Oscars. Might win more than The Power of the Dog. Like, what? No disrespect to the team behind that film. Great film. Wasn't for me. I don't think it's going to win any. I think I just decided to switch over to, I might not have done it, but in my head, I've switched over to Dune because I watched that again. Just so the makeup on that in that film is incredible. Yeah, so I just think Dune's going to have a very good day. Sorry, a good night over there. Denton, what do you think?
I have the eyes of Tammy Faye on this one. It's, you know, transformative. She's playing a real person. I do think it's vulnerable, but it won at BAFTA. And if a movie like that can win at BAFTA, where Jessica Chastain wasn't even nominated, that was an interesting win. And it also won at the Guild. I think Dune is strong, though. I think it's the closest competitor, and it might be a little closer than people think. And it is weird that, you know, the eyes of Tammy Faye could potentially win 2 Oscars and beat out, you know, The Power of the Dog if the night goes that way. It would be very bizarre.
It's nuts. How do you feel, Matt, about makeup and hairstyling category?
Yeah, I'm going with the eyes of Tammy Faye partly because, again, it's sort of the safe option, and this year I don't know as much where to go out on the limbs. I don't think I'm picking the front runners in every single category, but yeah, like, look, I think beware of Cruella, a character that is iconic for her hair, one of maybe the most iconic pieces of hair in cinema from her character. So I'd beware of her. I think that's really where the threat lies, to be honest. But, you know, they could go, like, Dune's a film that just has a lot of below-the-line support, so maybe that's able to pick up a win here. Coming to America 2 and House of Gucci, also great makeup and hair in those films as well. They've done so. Yeah, but I think Cruella's the spoiler here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. That could absolutely happen. Cruella could pick up 2 Oscars tonight. So, I mean...
Yeah, that could be the film that beats Power of the Dog.
And I feel like that would sit well with me better than Tammy Faye picking up 2 Oscars, to be completely honest.
I think Power of the Dog's winning more than 2, but if it could win less, yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
I hope it's 4. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Riley, what do you think about makeup and hairstyling?
Well, I only switched to Cruella an hour ago for costumes.
Oh.
But I looked on Grammys, saw every editor, every all-star user had it predicted for costumes, and I thought, oh, well, that'd be embarrassing if I were the only one not to get it. So now that I'm on this Cruella train, I like what Matt is saying about maybe it'll pick up the second award as well. So I do feel like I'm wrong Dune is with that director miss.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, but we'll see what happens. Now, less tricky, I think, is animated feature, because I think most people are either predicting Encanto, which I'm going with. I think that, you know, was one of the better Disney films I've seen in a long Disney animated features I've seen in a long time. Or The Mitchells versus the Machines, the Netflix film, which has also done very well in precursors and with critics. You've also got Flea, nominated 3 times this year for documentary feature, animated feature, and international film. That's really impressive. I don't think it's going to win, though. And then you've got Luca and I have forgotten.
Raya and the Last Dragon, another Disney film.
Another Disney film. Is anyone not going with Encanto in this group? That's what I thought.
Can I just say, Rob, if Encanto wins Oscar history, first time a Disney film will have beaten a Pixar film at the Oscars when they've both been nominated in the same category.
Very good stat. And given that stats are going to fall all over the place tonight, that's a nice one where a stat might actually hold up or fall as well, because normally we'd go with the Pixar over the Disney. So it's a year of chaos. It's chaos, my friends. So speaking of another category where we're all pretty much in sync, that would be international feature. It's usually one of my favorite categories. I would have thought that The Worst Person in the World would have had some traction, given it has an original screenplay nomination. I was really hoping for Renata Reinsver as well. But that is an incredible movie. That's one that I could watch again and again. I just think it's a beautiful film. And also Flea, as we mentioned, is nominated here. Then we have Lunana Oyak in the Classroom from Bhutan. Its first ever nomination. Great to see representation from Central Asia. That really excites me. And the 5th nominee is... Can you please remind me, because I can't remember. Hand of God, of course, from my home, or my parents' homeland, Italy, and that's about football and about Naples, and it's Paolo Sorrentino. It's a beautiful film. Sorry, I forgot. I haven't had coffee yet, and it's morning. You just asked Matt, and so that's going to be Drive My Car, right? Does anybody agree that Drive My Car has this in the bag? I think it's, it's the Best Picture nominee as well. It's also got a screenplay nomination and director. Great showing for that film. So congratulations to the Drive My Car team. You are definitely winning an Oscar tonight for international feature. That leaves us with the final award that we have not discussed. Now, normally I would have said Best Director, that's a shoo-in. Let's not even bother talking about it because Jane Campion's going to win that one. But you know what? I'm actually getting a little worried because I am hearing that there is a lot of support out there for Steven Spielberg, The West Side Story, believe it or not.
The anonymous ballots, Rob? What is
so are we seeing a lot of that in anonymous ballots too? Because I haven't really been paying attention to those. But if Steven Spielberg beats Jane Campion again for Best Director, I'm going to be really, really upset. Here's why. Just a quick story. So when I first started getting into the Oscars in the early 90s, it was like 1990, I started getting into the Oscars. I was only like 12 years old. And so I started watching because I was really into films and whatever. And 1994, The Piano was nominated. It's the first ever Australian film. It's an Australian co-production, but it definitely is partly Australian, to be nominated for Best Picture. So I was really rooting for it. I thought it was a great movie. I listened to the soundtrack every day. And it lost to Schindler's List. Okay, fair enough. And it also lost Best Director, which I was really disappointed about. Jane Campion being the second ever female woman nominated for Best Director. She's back, and she's back against Steven Spielberg. She's the only woman to ever be nominated more than once, and she's finally going to win that Oscar. She'll be the third ever woman who has won Best Director. It's historic. It's got to happen. It's just got to happen. And I love Steven Spielberg, and I love West Side Story. But no. Does anybody think that Jane Campion is not a shoo-in? Please. Okay, good. Your silence makes me feel better. Maybe I'm just conjuring up this nonsense in my head because I've obviously got mental problems. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
what's your definition of shoo-in? Like 100%, 90%? Like what do you say shoo-in is, Rob?
I'd say shoo-in should be like 95 or up. Like she's 95% assured. Do you think?
Like, I give it more 85, 90, but like we're in the ballpark.
I would be shocked if she lost. I mean, if she loses, I might as well just take my predictions and just hit shuffle and jumble them all over the place. I mean, if I lose that one, I'm going to be in a really dark place.
Okay, thank you. That makes me feel better. I'm going to be in a really dark place too, and I think Jane Campion was. Well, she wants to win this. She wants this, right? I mean, and she deserves it. Whatever you think about The Power of a Dog, it's a divisive film. I get it, but her vision, as a filmmaker, she's a visionary. It's someone that I just admire and respect. She's probably my favorite film, one of my favorites. She's my top 5. So I want it to happen. Anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me? Just kidding. So let's move on. We've got our final thoughts before we go, and I think that we can say that we have some things to look forward to. It's probably going to be a bit of a mess tonight because we're hearing a lot of things that we don't like about what they're doing with the show, particularly not presenting all the categories live and the Twitter votes and all that crap. Putting that aside, I want each of you to tell me what you're most looking forward to, because there's got to be something that we can hold on to, guys. We've got to have something positive in this terrible world that we're living in right now. Riley, you go first.
Maybe this broadcast won't be so bad, right? Because they're going to cut out all the time of the people walking to the stage. We don't want to see that, right?
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's too much. I just hope we get to see clips. What do you want to see? Like, do you want to see interpretive dance? Like, what do you want from the Oscars? Riley.
I definitely want to see the clips. I think with these award shows, often they don't honor the films that are actually nominated, and I think these award shows are a great way to promote the work that's nominated. These are a lot of films that people have not seen or heard of, and I would love for the Oscars to help more people see these films, or at least hear of them.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. I think that's probably the number one thing that we all hope for, right? And before I ask you two guys, I'm just reminded by Steve Jones, Daniel Connelly as well. Anthony Hopkins is presenting, or he will be there. Don't just remember when he won for Silence of the Lambs and he got a standing ovation. He walked up and he got the Oscar and he held it up like, yes, this is mine. I got this. It was one of the greatest wins for me of all time. He's my number one actor of all time. For my number one film of all time. Then he won for The Father last year. They totally screwed that up because they were expecting Chadwick Boseman to win posthumously, and he didn't. So I'm hoping that he will get up there tonight. I hope they give him an Oscar, and then he can just stand there like that, and they can stand up and applaud for him, and that will make me cry. So that's what I'm looking forward to. What about you, Denton?
I'm looking forward just to the show. I hope it's good. I think, maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised. I'm excited to see the performances, see what Beyonce does. Is she really performing in the tennis courts of Compton? I have no idea. We've been hearing rumors. So I'm just looking forward to seeing what happens, and I'm hoping for the best. Maybe these hosts will do the show justice and shock us all.
You're right, and from with hearing as well that the hosts have been working pretty hard, and I think they might surprise us. Like, you know, Amy Schumer, I've been a bit like, oh, I'm not sure if this will happen, if she'll be good, she might disappoint me, but Wanda Sykes I think is going to really kill it. So that would be fun as well. What about you, Matt? What are you looking forward to the most?
As somebody said, love the fact we've got hosts back. I think it's great. Sometimes they're disasters, sometimes they're wonderful, but I just like having a host. I like having that sort of consistent voice or voices take us through the ceremony. So I'm a big advocate of hosts. I think at the end of the day, we're going to see some great people win Oscars. We don't know exactly, which categories are going to surprise us, but when we're even just looking at some of the front runners, there's some incredible work in film. And just to see those people get their moments to where we can celebrate that work. Or even when the Oscars are a train wreck, I still just love watching them. I love sort of getting stuck into the films and who's winning and who's up and who's down and just following over the course of the couple of hours. So even if the show's a bit of a mess, and part of the reason that I don't like the 8 shows missing is because I watched the Oscars for the awards, and there's some really exciting showdowns in those categories. Like, Cruella, which is one of sort of the more popular films probably that's nominated this year, is getting, we don't get to see those moments play out live. And I think there's some really nice narratives and stories they could have weaved into the show. But despite all that, we're going to see some great work get on it, and we're going to see some people have their moments and some really organic moments of shock, I'm sure, from some, and joy. And yeah, I just it's a great The Office.
Yeah, I know. I'm super excited about this, and I'm also excited about the reported Godfather reunion. I mean, that's going to blow my mind. If they can get them all on stage, apart from Marlon Brando, of course, then that would be, I mean, unless they do some kind of weird weekend at Bernie's thing, kidding. I think there's going to be some really good stuff for us cinema lovers, and then the rest of the people can just enjoy watching Minamata win the Best Twitter Award or some crap like that. So everybody, I just want to thank you all for joining us on this really fun pre-show. I hope this has helped with your predictions. Obviously, that's close. We've had 9,500 people vote in our predictions. That is incredible. Also, Chris Beecham, the one and only Chris Beecham that we all adore, he has just texted us and said that now that Olivia Colman has arrived, we have all 20 active nominees for the first time in a while. I don't even know when was the last time we had all the acting nominees attend, because even Judi Dench is there. So, I mean, that alone should make us excited for a really fun night. And I'm hoping for the best, guys. I really am. I don't care if I get really bad predictions. I just want to have a really good show. And we'll see you all back here for the post show. It's hosted by my mate, Matt Noble. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have some really cool people joining us, and we'll be probably either in tears of joy or tears of sadness. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, everybody, stick with Gold Derby. We're going to have a live blog running throughout the show that Kevin Jacobsen is going to be running. We'll have the review written by Tony Ruiz. I'll be doing a good, bad, and ugly article. There'll be plenty of other articles written by our amazing staff of writers. And, of course, let's enjoy this night together, everybody, because this is what we need right now. We need some fun, we need some frivolity, we need some happiness. So everybody, thank you for joining us. See you next time.